Hey guys, it's Ian here from Fantastic Dimensions. This is another GM Insight video. Um, this particular insight is about running pre-published modules. So this is something that I'd never really done until recently anyway. I said in I think one of my last videos I'd never run a module until about 8 or 9 months ago. Actually, I think I started to run a couple of modules, old school modules, during the D&D Next playtest, like the last year of the playtest basically that I took part in. Well, technically the playtest was over, but the last year leading up to the release of 5th edition. So, I don't know what that puts us back to, about a year and a half, nearly 2 years ago that I first started running published modules. So, a lot of people are really against it. They think it's unoriginal. There's the problem that possibly players have played it before or read it before at least, And I can understand those concerns. There's also a stigma, though, I think, against them because a lot of people probably don't run them very well. Or they just like run it right by the book and they're just very wooden and non-organic. So the way I have been approaching these modules anyway, I read through the module, I understand the basic structure of what's supposed to happen in the adventure according to the person who wrote the module. But I also keep in mind that that's not necessarily the way it's going to go, because that's the way RPGs are. You know yourself, if you've written your own adventures, you can have all this stuff planned out, this great kingdom, next neighboring kingdom, and this brilliant little treasure hunt and dungeon and, villain, monsters, everything. And the players might decide to jump on a boat and sail across the sea instead. What do you do then? So I think with a module, you have to be prepared to just completely improv almost the entire thing, depending on what your players do. So that's what I do anyway. I get the idea for who are the NPCs, what are the locations, what are the items, what are the kind of events that that could happen in this adventure, and then I get a basic understanding of that. I do keep it handy just in case, because sometimes that flavor text is kind of nice to you get a really good description of building. It's nice to be able to read that to the players and things like that. But and there's sometimes good little character notes in there too about like, okay, this NPC talks like this or has this particular physical trait, whatever it might be. So then once I run the adventure, though, all bets are off, and I just have to be prepared to react realistically, put myself in the headspace of the place, the NPCs, everything, and just be prepared to react kind of naturally to what the players do, how they react to it. I said in my last video, I think, about the Lamentations of the Flame Princess referee guide tutorial scenario that I ran for my party. We did 2 sessions. They were about 2.5 hours long each. And by the end of the first session, they were only halfway through what was written in the module or the scenario itself. And they had done something completely, unlike what was in the materials. So yeah, I ended up having to improvise pretty much, not everything, but almost everything anyway in the second half. And quite a bit in the first as well. But it was great because I was able to look at, okay, well, here's what was in the written adventure. Here's what the monsters were like, what was going on with these, with these NPCs that they haven't met yet, what they would have been doing if things had gone according to the script, which, don't get me wrong, it says directly in the Lamentations books, anyway, expect things to not go by the script. They never do. But I was able then to kind of add my own elements to the second half of that scenario. And I think they were pretty good elements too, actually. It'd be interesting if I talked to the players, if they could guess what I added in there that wasn't in there before. It didn't take a lot, but it was just enough to tweak it, to make it, so there was still something interesting to happen, because otherwise I could have just bypassed the whole second half of the adventure. But I thought the location was cool, the monsters were cool. I thought there has to be a good opportunity for something cool to happen here. So yeah, that would be my advice to you. If you're going to run modules, put your own stamp on it, put your own flavor into it, be prepared to, just make shit up on the fly if you have to, because your players aren't going to, unless you're a severe railroad conductor, There's no way you're going to get your players to go exactly by the script, and you shouldn't anyway, because that would be pretty boring. But yeah, so I like modules. They're very useful, especially for someone like me who doesn't have a lot of time to write original ideas all the time. I will be using more of them in future. Actually, most of my Call of Cthulhu adventures that I've run have been modules. So, but again, I do the same thing with those too. I get an idea for the setting, the characters, everything, and then I riff off the players from there. So, yeah, modules don't have to be boring. They don't even have to be predictable. You know, if your players have read them or know the module that you're running. Probably if they've read them or played them, yeah, it is going to cause issues anyway, because you're not going to, there's no point in reading the module and then making everything up again. But hopefully your players aren't shitty like that anyway. None of mine are, I don't think. So, yeah. So this GM gives a big thumbs up to modules. They're very useful if you want to, especially even for learning a game. You know, I've learned a few games in the last year, and I've run pre-generated kind of adventures for at least a couple of them, just because I wouldn't know where to begin writing up an adventure for them. That's why I was doing Call of Cthulhu modules, because I had no idea how to create a Call of Cthulhu investigation. So you could learn a lot from them. Not saying you should run modules all the time, but maybe just mix it up, you know? Or don't either, you know. It's not for everybody, and I understand that. I'm not trying to convince anybody out there who doesn't like modules to start running them. I guess what I'm trying to do here is just reach out to newer GMs and stuff, people who are maybe on the fence about whether they should try out a module, or maybe they wanted to do a module, but then, you know, kind of were convinced by the peanut gallery that, oh no, modules are bad, make up your own stuff. I mean, yeah, you should make up your own stuff, but you can also make up your own stuff within the module. So it doesn't have to be all bad. Anyway, that's it for this brief little GM insight. I hope you gained something from it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all at the gaming table.